Welcome to Final Approach with Chris Gregory. I am a philomath who is somebody who loves to learn things. One of the things that I've learned is that everyone has a tale to tell and a lesson to teach. From pilots to farriers to musicians to authors and creators, I'm going to explore my interests while introducing you to some amazing people. Pre-flight is complete and we have clearance, so let's kick the tires and start the fires. Chad Kelly has been a good friend of myself in the Heartland for a long time. I can always call Chad if I need a good group of horses for the students to work on, and he'll deliver. He knows everyone. Having started a career in the corporate world, Chad found his way back to making a living with the noble animal that we all love. He has a very interesting history that you'll like as you listen in on our conversation. We are cleared for takeoff. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for joining me. I am sitting here with the amazing Chad Kelly. He and I have been, acquaintances and friends for how long now, Chad?
Oh, man. 30-something years probably.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I met you when I first came back here in the 90s. And back then you were shoeing a bunch, so I wasn't necessarily providing any service to you. So tell us, how old are you? Where are you from? What model are you?
Well, I'll be 57 this year.
So a 67 model?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
You look older than me. You guys can look at the picture.
Well, the miles. It's a mileage thing is what that is.
I see.
Where I'm from, well, I guess I'm from around here. Every summer we'd come back here in the Southwest Missouri,
Where were you in the winter?
Well, my dad was in the military my whole life, so we lived everywhere, lots and lots of different places.
What branch was he in?
He's in the Navy. I have one brother that was a retired Army and one brother's retired Air Force. And the only things we're left are the other part of the Navy, the Marines, and then the Coast Guard, which was not necessarily a choice for me.
I see. So you didn't join?
No, I tried to. I actually tried to. I went down and I'd already had enough broken bones on my body, but I went down while I was in college, and I already had one of my first science degrees, and I went down and tried to take the nuclear power test, and I cut the third highest score they'd ever seen at that time. Of course, I already had like a minor in physics.
Your bachelor's biology or?
The first bachelor was in chemistry, yeah.
Chemistry, okay.
So I cut the third highest score they'd ever seen, and basically they chased me too much and scared me off. And then, you can't rope very many calves or ride many horses on a submarine. I got to think about that, and it's like, ooh, that don't seem right.
They brought a U-Haul to the first date, and you said that's not going to work, huh?
That is not it. That's not me.
Did you live overseas, or was it all U.S.?
I've been overseas, but never actually officially lived overseas.
So your dad didn't take you to Germany or?
No. He went to a lot of places, but most of the time we stayed in the States. The majority of the time was either in California or one of the bigger bases like Chicago or Memphis.
Your dad had family here?
Yeah, Mom and Dad both are from here in Southwest Missouri. Dad was from a little town down here just to the west of me at Granby, and Mom was from McDonald County down by Goodman. Every summer we'd spend the summers here with all the family here.
Very cool. Where did you end up going to college? Because you got like all kinds of degrees behind you.
I went to several different colleges. I tried to go to lots of colleges, I guess is what I should say. I started going to UT Martin, and that didn't work out. I didn't even get to go to classes.
Why?
Well, I went there thinking I was going to be on a scholarship to ride saddle broncs and everything, and I was 18 years old, and turns out if the coach tells you probably have a drinking problem, you probably got a drinking problem, and you shouldn't get in a fist fight with the coach. That's probably not a good idea.
What was her name? No,
and she won. That's After that, I went to ASU for a while.
Did you rodeo for them?
I was on the rodeo team there, but it wasn't like UT Martin. It was like just a bunch of guys together, and they'd go places.
So a rodeo club without really a coach type thing.
Right. We did that there, and then I also went to Fayetteville for a while, and I graduated my first degree at Missouri Southern here in Joplin. That was where I got my first chemistry degree.
Okay. And then you went beyond that for some other stuff. What else did you get degrees in?
Well, I got lots of minors and stuff like that. And I have degrees in chemistry. I've got a little bit in physics and I've got another minor in biology. I got a secondary education certificate. Decided I didn't like kids very much.
Why?
I actually thought that would be a really good idea for me. And I went and I taught physics. Your last part of your secondary curriculum, you have to go and student teach, they call it. And they let me student teach a physics class, and it was wonderful. The kids were all wanting to be there, and it was great, and everybody's learning. And about halfway through, they said, "Oh, no, you've got to teach physical science, which is a required course." And I got the class with the guys in the back smoking cigarettes, and no one wanted to work. And I was like, you guys should dig ditches. If you don't want to be here, just get out. You save us all a lot of money. People didn't like that very much.
Wasn't going to work for a career, huh?
No, I shot myself in the foot on that. I was like, well, I don't think I want to be a teacher anymore.
But all this time you were also a cowboy, right? So you were breaking horses or?
Doing all the horse thing. My last years of high school, well, I rode in 2 different trucks. Richard Peel was the guy that started me on the track. And then he would loan me out to Lee Lyles every now and then.
And by starting you on the track, you mean starting you on the horseshoeing track?
Right, the horseshoeing track. I was already starting to try and learn how to ride colts and do all kinds of stuff on my own.
Was that hard to do with the military?
No, because it's different now. But back then, most of the bigger military bases had a horse facility on the base.
Yeah.
At that point, when I was about 15 or so, 14, 15, I have to get my timeline right. But anyway, we were stationed at Millington, Tennessee, and they had hundreds of horses. And Dad made sure we always had horses and saddles and stuff everywhere we went.
So was your dad a cowboy growing up?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm not a cowboy, but he liked horses and he rode a lot of horses and everything. And he didn't go work on ranches or anything, but they had cows and horses and stuff and did cowboy stuff best they could, But yeah, the facilities on the Millington Naval Base, that was a big deal for me because it let me see a lot of horses, a lot of different kind of horses. And when I was 14, 15, if they were having problems with the horses, well, they'd let me have it. And I would go, and if you get in enough accidents, you learn how to fix stuff without getting hurt.
So you're kind of doing this kind of on your own then?
Right. I didn't have an instructor. I was just kind of figuring out what worked for me and what didn't. It wasn't until later on in life when I actually started looking around and applying some other people's knowledge to benefit myself.
You get here to Joplin, and are you working through college shoeing horses?
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously, I still had student loans and stuff. I was still shoeing horses and riding colts and doing all the cowboy stuff. Truthfully, that's all I wanted to do. When my last year of high school, I didn't want to go to college. I got a really good ACT and all that stuff, and everybody wanted me to go to college. I just wanted to shoe horses and ride colts. I didn't want to go be anything else. They convinced me that college would be a great thing. I guess it must have been because I went to college for like almost 10 years. But that whole time, I was helping support myself by shoeing horses, riding colts. We'd rope a little bit and do other odds and end jobs and stuff. And I was having fun living my life and still going to college.
Excellent. So out of college, I know you had a job with Eagle Pitcher. Is that right?
Yeah, it was a job between Eagle Pitcher and who had a joint contract, a DARPA contract and a NASA contract to develop a lithium ion. That was kind of a unique situation that's a God thing, I was going to college and I had a professor in Fayetteville that had me doing all these experiments on different type of carbon compounds and cathode compounds and everything. And back then I was just doing what he said. Didn't really know what I was doing. I was just putting the square pegs in the round holes and stuff like that and see what happened. Then when I moved to Joplin, Larry Albright was the instructor that really helped me out. He had me doing a bunch of work with different compounds and everything. Of course, by then I had a wife and a daughter and everything. They basically told me I had to quit going to college in 93 or 94. I don't remember, but because I was a big boy now.
Your wife tell you this or?
No, the college did because they're like, you've got lots too many credit hours. You need to decide to do something with your life.
Wow. Okay.
Counselor.
All right.
But Dr. Albright, I'd been working for him in his lab, doing independent studies and stuff, and I didn't know what I was working on. I just knew what he told me to work on, and I went and worked on it, So I graduated with a degree in chemistry and some minors and stuff there at Southern. I immediately went out and tried to find a job. I got a job, actually, the only other job I've had besides that one. Well, I've had 3 jobs, but I got a job right down here in Verona working, I think it was called ConAgra back then. I only worked there like 2.5 months. But I got a job there right away because, I mean, they needed a chemist and stuff out there. That's me. I'll support my family and do great and everything, you know.
Was it not a great place to work?
It was okay, but it was basically a plant. They made all kinds of different products. They made products for the oil field, but they also made products for the agricultural companies and stuff. And it was great. It had its downsides too. I wondered when I drove in there the very first time why everybody had an old car in the parking lot, because the smell from the plant would make your new car smell like that too. So everybody drove their old car to work, you know. But there was some problems with it. But while I was there, it was just like Men in Black. These guys in these black suits and the white ties and everything, they show up and they're like, "We'd like you to come to work for us." And I'm like, "Really?" I know I wasn't thinking I was going to be James Bond, but I could be Q, you know, I could be that guy.
Right.
And they convinced me that I can come work for them and go work for Eagle Picture and get the government deal going on and everything. And I went over there, and my very first day, they told me I was going to be the first person on that job, you know, working on lithium ion. That's what I was working on. I didn't know what lithium ion was. I knew parts and pieces of it because that's what I'd been working on for these different professors. I'll never forget, I go in there and I'm like, "Hi, I'm Chad Kelly. I'm here to work on the lithium ion project." And the people at the office, they're like, "What project?" And I'm like, "That's what they hired me to work on. Where's the lithium ion facility?" They're like, "There isn't one. You're it." And I'm like,
Wow.
"Ooh, that's not good."
So they just give you the corner of a shop and say, put it together? Or?
I had to work in different buildings at first. And then when all the money, I mean, the first contract we got to really develop it was, the first year was a $12 million contract.
Which back in the 90s was a lot of money.
Oh, yeah, it was a lot of money. And at that time, I was the only one working on it at first. And then they started hiring some other people. I just eventually I kept on moving up because all the little projects I'd been working on for all the different professors, they were the different pieces to the battery. And I just didn't know that until I got to this point.
So you're able to put all that together.
Right. I always tell everybody I was never the smartest guy in the room. If you're the guy that's the smartest guy in the room and you're in charge, you are not a smart guy, because you need to hire some people that know a lot better than you on different stuff.
Right.
And my talent that time with my engineering deal was I understood what the really smart guys did up to a certain point anyway, and I could translate that into a position where people on the line could actually make it and reproduce it every single time, or at least get close to that, you know. That was my talent.
Were you the developer of the first lithium ion battery?
No, it wasn't the first lithium ion. The actual lithium ion battery was actually first developed, well, aside from the college work, the actual first lithium ion battery was developed in Japan.
Okay.
But it was some of the first lithium ion batteries in America, in the United States. And what we did, we took what they had done and what all the different professors here in the States have done, and we basically combined everything to make what we could put on this. There's some on the space shuttle. So they're on the International Space Station, all that stuff now.
So how about the battery in my phone? How different is it from what you guys were building in the 90s?
Well, the one on your phone is the size of thumb drive.
Okay. Like USB.
Yeah, that's what the size of most of the phones is, or it's kind of expanded now since you got the smartphones. They're like a big plate. The batteries we were building were more the size of, well, some of them got as big as like a little VW car.
Wow.
And when they would catch on fire, it was pretty bad.
Kind of like a modern electric car.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the electric car? Because, this has kind of become a deal now. They're discounting the heck out of them because nobody wants to buy them. And what's your thoughts on that particular political hot topic?
I think that the electric car, fully electric car, is a very grand idea, but there's a lot of problems that need to be taken care of before it's actually going to become a viable solution to anything. The biggest thing is so for them to mine out all of the lithium and the cobalt and everything they need for lithium-ion batteries, it's a pretty big deal. There's places in South America where they do that it's like strip mining. It's a big invasion of the natural state of things. The other part of it is, and the more important part, would be the infrastructure that we have in the States. Right now, most homes are set up on a 100 amp or maybe a 200 amp box in their house. If everybody gets an electric car and we have to charge them, say it's running anywhere from 25 to 75 amps to charge this car, now you've got your infrastructure on your power lines and everything is not set up for that. You already have rolling blackouts in California. You have blackouts in different areas of the East Coast and everything. Now you're going to add however many times that is for everybody to pull that much more power.
We're not ready for it.
No. And there's all kinds of different optimum solutions, I guess, to do things. We could diverge off into all kinds of different stuff. The solar panels, people talk about solar panels and that's going to save us and everything, but solar panels only work when the sun's out.
There is that.
So there's a thing called the duck curve for power supply in the nation. And if you ever look it up on your internet deal, the duck curve is shaped like a duck. It's a power supply according to timeline in your day.
Okay.
And the peak powers for home use is very early in the morning and very late at night. And then about 11 o'clock, it drops off, or early in the morning. It starts about 6, goes pretty strong until about 9, and then it flattens out, goes as strong again at about 7 o'clock until 11 o'clock. So your peaks are when the sun's not even out for the most part. I mean, it varies a little bit, but.
So relying on solar for that would be tough.
Yeah, because you're not using it. And the only way you could functionally do that is to store it either electrochemically, battery, or I say hydrogen wall, but I think that's become more popular. Fuel cells or mechanical. There's some mechanical ways you could store it.
Well, it's very interesting to me because the only thing I know about electricity is that it flows downhill.
Is that right?
People are shocked when they find out what a bad electrician I am. Well, that's very, very interesting. So how long did you work in that industry before you did your Mustang stuff and your cowboy stuff?
Well, I always did. I mean, I was always.
That was what you're doing on the side. But
I mean, when I was an engineer, they would have me flying all over the country and do all kinds of stuff. And if I was anywhere near home, I may not get home till midnight. I was a workaholic. Once I find something, I engulf myself in that. Cost me a lot, but
it cost you marriage?
Oh yeah. I mean, it cost me a lot of stuff, but I focus on it so much that I want it to succeed. But my relief for that was if I get home at midnight, I go up and loop colts around for an hour or two, and that was my relief. That was normal. That brought me back. And I did that for about 9.5 years, almost 10 years. And then several things happened. 9/11 happened. There was a lot of problems within the company. Was getting big enough. There's a lot of political problems and everything else. And I'm not really a political kind of guy, as you know.
9/11, you'd be like 33, 34.
Yeah, I don't know. Something like that, 34, I think. Yeah. And actually, I was in charge of everything back then. I was in charge of the whole lithium-ion program at the time. I had just come back for a trip, I think to Scotland or England or something. I come back in and I had got to work late that day. And I walk in and all my people in the whole plant are looking at TVs in the break room. I'm like, why are you guys in here watching movies? And they're like, it's not a movie. I'm like, I'm cussing them and stuff. I'm like, get to work. We got stuff to do. Because I really thought it was a movie.
Right. Oh, yeah.
That doesn't happen. I mean, that looked like a movie. There were some other things happen too. There were some rockets blow up and stuff. And I was pretty sure that, our technology had caused it. Turns out it wasn't true, but.
Oh, wow. So you were carrying some guilt around from that, huh?
Oh, stress. I mean, like unbelievable. Yeah. And there was a point in there where every hair in my body fell off.
Alopecia.
Yeah. And I had very bad like whelps all over me and stuff. And
really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So how old were you when you got married?
24, maybe.
How long did that last?
5 years.
5 years. Okay. So you were divorced by then.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was divorced by then.
But still stressed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, my marriage wasn't my stressor. It was, it was everything else in my life. The stress was just unbelievable. And I mean, they offered me a way out. They actually paid my salary for a couple of years after that. They started off, they would call me once a week with questions. And then they would, after several months, they would be like once a month, call me and, yeah, you want to come back? No, I don't. And then after a while, it was every couple months. And then after a couple of years, they were like, you ready to come back? No, I'm pretty much enjoying what I'm doing now. I go shoe horses and I ride colts and I rope and I play cowboy and I don't make near as much money, but you know what?
It's all right, huh?
It's not the end of the world. I'm
Okay. So this was like probably 2005 by now?
2001 when I got out.
So you got out like right after 9/11.
Yeah, that November. Stress was killing me. It was a big deal. I went back to roping and riding colts, shoeing horses, and having fun. Like I said, for the first couple of years, I had a bank because I was on their payroll still. Man, it was great. And it was still great afterwards. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I knew that time was coming when I actually had to make a living.
Right. So when did you get involved with Mustangs?
I tell the story. There was an advertisement in the Western Horseman. We had already moved over here to Monette, and I was with Sherry by then. I met her in 2002. We moved to Monette in 2007. Her dad had got real bad hurt in 2005. We moved to Monette to take care of them in 2007.
Right. So just a little history. Her dad, Art Davidson, was quite the cowboy, quite the roper, well-known horseman. And then he had a calf run under him in a chute. He flipped over backwards and broke his neck. Is that right?
He owned the Welch Stockyards, and he was down there sorting cattle by himself because he was, a little bit hard-headed. Wanted to do it his way. And he was 65 when he got hurt.
Okay.
He was down there sorting 6-weight cattle that the people had left the cattle on the trailer that night because they were so wild, and they left them in the parking lot.
Oh, man.
And so he pulled them up there and started unloading them, the 6-weight calves, sorting steers and heifers and stuff. There's a lot of cattle, not everything, but there's a lot of cattle that only see people once or twice a year out there in the Osage, out there in Oklahoma and stuff, And that's some of those. And he was sorting it by himself. It's his sale barn. He needs to get it done. A 6-weight calf got up underneath him and flipped him against the solid steel fence, and broke his neck. So he was John Wayne.
Oh, I know. I remember.
Yeah. There's lots of guys tell a story about him being tough and everything, but they called me.
So how did they find him? If he's there by himself, how long until he found?
I don't remember now how long he laid there, but he laid there a little while. And we used to hire a bunch of college kids from the NEO and stuff to come help us and stuff. And one of them found him. They called me and told me to come get Sue, his wife, and take her to the hospital. And this is how much we thought this guy was tough, And because he'd been hurt and I'd been hurt, and he would tell me to tough up and all that stuff, And so we were just joking about it. Even Sue and I were joking about it because we were like, oh, he probably just, broke a leg or something like that. And they're making us drive all the way to Joplin, and he'll probably be walking it off and shoeing horses next week, I'll never forget that because we were joking about it pretty bad. And then we get to the hospital, the surgeon's there, and he's like, well, it's going to be, after the next 24 hours we'll decide. I'm like, decide what? And he's like, decide he's going to live. I'm like, really?
Wow.
It was a big deal. It was a big, big deal. It was a pretty bad day.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, we drifted off the Mustang story. I apologize for that. So, okay. So you tell the story.
Pretty easy to get me to diverge off into something, a little tangent.
Me too. and my students do it to me all the time. They start talking about planes or something, and they'll say, oh, well, what about this? And then pretty soon I'm telling the story.
Yeah.
You said you usually tell people this story about the Mustangs.
Oh, yeah. So there was an advertisement in the Western Horseman, and it said they want to get the top 100 trainers in the nation to try these Mustangs and compete for this money and all that stuff, And I thought it was a cool idea. We were already training horses and everything. I mean, a lot of horses. We did a lot of things. I've started some Congress champions and some world champions, and I've had some horses at the NFR, just like that. And mostly what I do is start them. And so I thought that was my deal and my gig. And when that advertisement came out, I thought it was cool at first, and I just forgot all about it. Somehow my name got sent in, and the form got filled out.
Oh, so you didn't do it?
No.
Who did it?
It was Paige and Sherry, my daughter and Sherry. And so I didn't know much about it until they called. They said, hey, you're in. I'm like, in what? And it was kind of cool at first. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I mean, they think something of it.
And this was before they had like the Mustang Challenge or any of those.
Well, this was the very first Mustang Challenge.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I competed in the very first Mustang Challenge.
All right.
Yeah. And they said, you're in. You got to come down and pick up your horse down here at Pauls Valley, Oklahoma, and this and that. And we get down there. And back then, the Heritage Foundation was running everything as far as the challenge went. And the video they show of the people standing around the trailer and the horse jumps out over the top of the chute they're trying to load him with, that was my horse. And
Well, so he's athletic.
Oh my gosh, I was cussing Paige and Sherry bad. I mean, I was like, "Oh, you're gonna get me killed. Is this some kind of insurance fraud or something?" I mean, you're trying to. I mean, it's not fraud, I guess, if you kill me, it's on purpose. But but anyway, but the wild thing was that, and they said, "Hey, while you're down here, you can pick up a couple more horses, and we'll pay you to train them." I'm like, okay. So we brought home some horses. We drove back from Paul's Valley, which was about 4.5 hours. I had started lots of colts by then. We put them right here in this round pen. We're at my home place. In half an hour, I was riding him around.
The one that jumped out of the trailer.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. They're not all that easy, but that was a pretty nice one, you know. I rode him for 100 days. That was the very first Mustang challenge I'd ever had. Before the challenge, I'd only been riding maybe 30 days or 45 days, or I don't know, something like that. And they had an adoption. The BLM had an adoption over here at Girard, Kansas. And I took that horse over there and just going to show off on him to help the cause or whatever. I get over there, and the guys, the BLM employees, they knew there was something there, you know. They actually picked me to win the whole deal, because this horse was doing great. I mean, really great.
Nice.
By the end of my 100 days, I mean, I could rope steers on him and everything. I could do a lot of stuff without a bridle on him. I could rope on him and everything in the pasture and stuff on him with no bridle or anything. And
so did you guys go somewhere to a central place and compete on them then?
they have different ones now, but back then it was just one, and it was in Fort Worth. I think it was in September. And we took him down there. Man, I had sponsors and all kinds of people showing up, and family was all there. And we get down there, and it was real. I mean, my horse was far and above all the other horses there.
So you won it?
No, I didn't.
Oh, no.
No, I didn't. If I'd gone in the years after that, it'd have been great. But the very first year, they actually went by quarter horse rules. Well, I'll tell that story here in a second. But the first year, I'll go down there before the competition even happens. I'm out there, and they said there was only certain times you could ride your horse and shoot guns on it, right? Because they thought people would do that. And they had said that to me a month before, so I went and bought 2 pistols off Jimmy Allen, you know. And I'd shot him once off of him. But I cracked whips and all kinds of stuff on him, and he was good. So there was a set time you could go in the Will Rogers and shoot your guns. So me and my family, we'd go out and we'd go to the big steakhouse. And to tell the truth, I had a few too many beers, but it wasn't going to affect my riding, too much. And we go back, and we get in the arena, and there's people doing all kinds of crazy stuff and everything. But it was time to shoot your guns. And I shot the guns a few times and everything, and nothing big, he could already handle it. And I'm taking my bridle off, and I'm riding him around and doing my stuff. And I'll never forget, there's a guy out there. He has a chainsaw. It's not about me, it's about him. He had a chainsaw, and he's standing up on his horse, and he's like that. And my horse just standing next to him, like he's all calm and everything. And he's like, "Do you do this on your horse?" I'm, "No, I ain't got no reason to use a chainsaw on my horse. I don't even know why you do that." But anyway, so I'm riding around. I'm a little inebriated. This girl comes in, and she's a BLM employee, and she says, "Hey, there's a guy outside that wants to talk to you." Because I was the only one riding with that bridle and stuff. And I said, "Sure." And I go out there, and she said, "You want to put your bridle on?" "No, I ain't going to put the bridle on. I ride this horse all the time, And I go out in the parking lot, and the guy, he had a very unique voice. He said, Don Glenn, that's his name. He said, "Hi, I'm Don Glenn. I'm in charge of the BLM." I touched the horse and made him bow to the ground. I stepped off. I said, "I'm Chad Kelly." He turned around. He said, "Give that guy a contract."
Nice.
That was before the competition or anything. They were supposed to wait till after the show was over to get out the contracts. Anyway, and so we already talked about it. So I already had a contract, but I still wanted to win.
Of course. Now, was there prize money on top of the contract, or were you just winning a contract?
No, there was prize money. There was, I think the first year was like $50,000 or something like that.
So substantial.
Yeah, it was significant. Yeah, I didn't get any of it.
Oh, man. So why did you not win?
So the very first year, the judges were, I think, well, J.D. Yates was one of them.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And I'd known J.D. from down at O'Brien's Ranch and stuff like that. Carol Rose, I think, was there. There were several big-name judges there. But they had them go by quarter horse rules, which is fine.
What kind of rules that?
Well, I mean, just standard quarter horse association rules, and that's where I got my problems at. I had the broken horse there; everybody knew it. But I go, they had a pretty good trail pattern set up that had all these different get in the box and spin and go side pass and all stuff, and I could do it all. But when I got in the sand trap and was spinning, the crowd was going crazy because my horse was so much better. I lost count how many times I'd spun, and I overspun once one way and twice the other way. And that's automatic DQ for that particular part, and that DQs your whole riding part.
Oh, my.
But even with zeros for that, I was like 40-some points above everybody else just in my riding scores, but the riding scores didn't count because I'd been disqualified in one of my obstacles,
Oh, geez.
I would have gotten the short round anyway by that. But I had it all prepared. I was going to trip a steer down in Texas and step off in time, because that's one of the smart things JD said whenever they had the initial meeting of all the trainers. He said, if you can trip one down, I'll give you all the points you can get. I know I can. I mean, I'm ready. Yeah, I got disqualified in that. And I was like, maybe they won't do that. Because, I'm just like, I'm so much better than that. Maybe they won't disqualify me. But they did because it was the rules. And I understand that. For a long time after that, all I heard was, man, Chad, you sure can ride, but you can't count. That was the deal for a long time. A lot of jokes about that.
What about the contract? What did the contract mean?
So what the BLM would do, they put it through the foundation, the Heritage Foundation. And basically what they did, it started off pretty small. They would ship me, actually, at first I had to go get them. I would go get a trailer load of horses, maybe 8 or 10 horses. I would train them. I would get them going for $1,000 each. I got them where another person can ride them or drive them, handle them, basically get along with them.
Were you doing that in 30 days?
It depended on the horse. At that time, my skill set was pretty high. I had a bunch of guys riding for me. I started every horse myself. I would ride them 2 or 3 times, maybe more if they were bad or something. And I did everything myself until I got, some of Leroy and some of the guys that used to ride for me.
Right.
Until I got where I thought those guys could handle it. And then they would take off and trail ride and go down the road and bring them to town, work cows, whatever we did, But I started every one of them myself. You started off small. We'd do, 8 or 10 in a trailer load. I adopt those out and they pay me my money. I'd go get some more. And then after a while.
But you were also adopting them then. You were also in charge of that, huh?
Yeah. We were put in charge of that. That was Sherry's job, Sherry.
Oh, yeah. Well, she's organized.
She's the salesman and can talk to people and know what they want and kind of figure it all out. And I just rode the horses. And we were a team.
Still are.
Yeah. But then it escalated to where I kept about 200 of them a time on the ranch over there you've been to.
So were you able to make $200,000 a year doing this? Or more, or what?
More, yeah, more. It
Wow.
depended on the year. We adopted out anywhere from, it started off slow, and there were some times we adopted out a lot more.
That's amazing.
At one point, not only were we working for the Heritage Foundation, who was working for the BLM, they paid them and they paid us, but we were also working for the BLM directly because we had our own yearling program where we brought a bunch of semi-loaded yearlings in at a time. We would set up a situation with 4-H kids or whatever, and we'd give a bunch of the money back. I would spend 1 or 2 days a week. The kids would bring their horse to me at that facility over there, and I would teach them how to handle their colts and what to do with them and everything. Me and my crew, we got them where they were gentle first, and then we adopted the kids, and that got us some money. We put part of the money back into the pot for the kids to have an event at the end of the year, and we had a big event in Springfield where we had an adoption. They got reassigned, or if they wanted to keep the horse, they could, and they got prize money and scholarships and stuff like that. But it taught the kids to be better horsemen because they were learning from us as we went, and we'd already been through so many Mustangs at that time. We could just see it coming, just
Sure.
how it worked.
Man, that's very interesting. So is there anything like that happening now?
No, not really. There's a few storefronts. They call them storefronts if they have more than 4 or 5 horses. There's a few storefronts around. The BLM actually has the program that we developed, and they pay the people to take the horses now. They'll give you $1,000 to adopt a horse. They give you $500 up front, and they give you $500 on the end after you've kept it a year. And then the horse is totally 100% yours. And that's a good program for people who just want like a trail riding horse, or, not everybody needs a Ferrari.
Right.
Everybody needs an old farm truck, but not everybody needs a Ferrari.
And are there a lot of horses available?
Oh, man. Yeah. So I don't know the exact numbers now, but I know when I stopped working for the BLM.
About what year was that?
2013 or 2014.
Okay, 10 years ago then.
Yeah. when I stopped working for them, I think there was like 75 or 80,000 horses in short-term holding, and there were more than that in long-term holding.
Wow.
It's a heck of a deal. I mean, it needs to be done a little bit, different, but it's kind of a government program, and governments are not the most efficient method a lot of times. If it was a private deal, I'm pretty sure it would it could escalate pretty quick in adopting a bunch of horses.
Yeah, and a lot of people could have a good horse, and a lot of people could make some money. And
Right. The only other program that I know of that does what we were doing or something similar, I know Hutchinson, Kansas, there's a couple of prisons around that they let their prisoners train horses. And it helps the guys.
Yeah, good for everybody.
Yeah, it's good for the horse and gets adopted in a good home, but it helps the guys learn some responsibility and some emotional control. One of the programs is like a veterans program for guys with PTSD and stuff like that I know of. And then the also in the prison programs as well. Emotional control. If you don't have control of your emotions when you go into work a horse like that, a wild horse like that, you're getting nowhere. And to be able to self-control, is essential. And a lot of those guys come out of that a lot better off because of that.
I work with a place called Camp Cowboy. And so if you guys have heard the podcast with Scott Robinson, he's the kind of the founder of that. And it was designed for veterans with PTSD, and they give them a horse that they learn groundwork with the horse, and it feeds into their spirit and their soul, and it saves a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it really does work, because a horse is basically an antenna for you. A horse mimics whatever your emotional state and your intentions are.
You can sure watch them change when different students touch them, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, and you can see it coming too. You're like, oh, and they know. They just know from how that student feels.
Yep. We've been doing Chad's horses. Well, Chad's been organizing horses for the school to do just because you like watching, huh? And helping these kids.
I think everybody. So when I learned, I was a slave for Richard and Lee, part of the time, not a good slave, but I think I really believe this is a great program that you teach these kids how to do everything and come up and do everything and know what to look for and why. The why is a big deal, because I see so many horseshoers that they put plates on, but they don't know why.
They just do it because that's how they were taught to do it.
Right.
But they don't truly understand the ramifications.
Right. And that's really hard. I mean, that's hard to watch because, some of the stuff is so easy and
You've come up many times that, oh my gosh, Chris, look at that. Oh, I could never do your job.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it scares me. I'm like, I would have a stroke out here. Once a month, I can watch these kids. If I do it every day, I'm pretty bad about cussing somebody if they're doing wrong. And there would be some people that could really take a butt chewing out here, I'm guarantee you. Because, oof, don't do that, dummy. That's, oof.
Yep. You're still doing some shoeing, right? You still shoe your own and a few on the side?
Yeah, I'm back to shoeing now that my knees are better and everything. I'm back to shoeing a few, yeah.
You want to tell about your neck? That's a great story.
Oh, about breaking my neck?
You had a broke neck for a long time.
Well, 6 months. The second time I broke it, 6 months, yeah.
So tell us about that.
I broke my neck because a guy sent a horse here because, I'm the wonderful do-whatever, can help people fix their horses. And sometimes I'm like, that just escalated way beyond reality, He sent a horse and he said every time he saddles it, it bucks. And that part was very true. What was failed to mention was that he turns and he'll buck straight at you. And my little old man feet, which I have now, wouldn't move fast enough to let me out of the way. That horse, one foot hit me in the head and one foot hit me in the shoulder, and he bounced my head off the ground. The boy that was standing here said it's like 3 feet off the ground,
Wow.
Unfortunately, and so the adrenaline was flowing and I was mad and I roped the horse and I actually cowboyed it out of him instead of doing anything right because I was mad. A reaction, emotional reaction. After the dust settled and I put the horse up and everything, and I was like, oh, I can't raise my arms above like my waist.
But you were able to get through it, rope him, and do everything you did until then.
Yeah, because adrenaline was flowing. Yeah. And then when that adrenaline wore off, I was like, oh, I think I'm actually really hurt.
Oh, man.
I guess I was pretty white. And I go inside and I sit down. I said, Sherry, I think I'm hurt. Of course, Sherry's always trying to make a better cowboy tougher,
It was raised by art.
Yeah, she's like, suck it up. And I'm like, oh, no, I think I'm really hurt. And I'm afraid to tell her how hurt I think I am because, I don't be weak. So I'm pretty sure I've damaged something. I just don't, I'm a tough cowboy still. No longer, but at that point, I think I'm a tough cowboy. It's only been, 4 years ago? And I was like, I'm still a tough cowboy, and I'm going to tough it out, and it's going to get better all by itself. That's not right. That's not right.
Not when it's that bad.
I got by for 6 months. Of course, I used this PEMF machine and took a lot of drugs and everything else, trying to let it heal by itself. Finally, when I went to the hospital, we got the MRI done, and I'm in the tube, and they bring in 3 different doctors, and they're all oohing and ahhing. I can hear them. I can't tell exactly what they're saying, but when they call in that many people, there's got to be something bad,
Right. Or something interesting.
Yeah. I get out of the tube, they bring me out of the tube, and I'm trying to sit up, and I'm like, well, how bad was it? And they're like, well, we can't tell you. I'll have to talk to your doctor and the surgeon. I'm like, oh, surgeon, so I'm probably bad off, huh? And they're like, well, they'll call you. Maybe a couple of weeks or something. Okay. And we're coming home. We get 20 minutes from the hospital, and the surgeon and the doctor called us and said, turn around, come back. You're hurt. I'm like, what? And so we go back, and he's like, you got to have surgery today. I'm like,
wow.
Oh, no, I can't do that.
They thought you might actually hurt yourself bad enough you'd be paralyzed or something. Huh?
Well, they thought I'd die. Yeah.
Man.
I didn't have any of the spinal fluid flowing down to the extremities like it should be. I had some, but not anywhere near as good.
How were you able to live with that?
I don't know. I guess because no one else was showing up to work. So I went ahead and fed cows and, did horses. I wasn't riding too much or anything because I was hurt, but I would feed the cows, feed the horses, feed the goats, whatever I had to do. And then I'd go in there and just lay around and use that machine, the PEMF machine. The surgeon's like, you got to have surgery today. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I mean, I got a lot of stuff to take care of. I'll have to arrange some guys to come take care of it, and then I'll do it. And I'm like, give me 2 weeks. And he's like, well, okay. I mean, I lasted 6 months. I know when I did it. And I don't think I'm going to die. I went in that February to get my neck fixed. And I went in, I was 5'7", and I come out, I was 5'9.5".
And they cut through the front of your throat, right?
Yeah, they cut through the front of me, and they inserted a metal, I call it a flapper. I don't know really what it's called, but it's an expansion joint there in your neck where all the discs were crushed and pushed sideways and stuff. They put that little flapper in there, and then they put a plate on the front of my neck to go across that. I mean, it's pretty common anymore.
And you feel better than you had in a while, huh?
Oh, man, yeah. I woke up, and I was like, I'm like 20-something years old again. I'm like, this is wonderful.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean.
And you're back to riding, no problem.
Yeah, I'm riding no problem. 2 weeks after, I had to have these checkups, and Sherry went and bought white tennis shoes for me to wear and hid all my boots because she had all these guys lined up to feed everything for me and everything. And that way I didn't get off the gravel driveway, right? And she would know. And we go for the checkup the first week, and things are going good. Second week, we go good. The end of the second week, go for the last checkup. There's going to be a monthly checkup after that, but the second week, I'm like, hey, when can I ride again? And the doctor said, well, just if you feel good, you can ride one. Just make sure it's gentle, don't fall on your head or anything. And she's like, don't tell him that. And we get home from the doctor, and one of our foster girls is here. I had an old horse here that he wasn't old, but he was gentle, I told her, I said, go get that horse and help me saddle it up. And I got on him, and I'm riding him around. I'm like, oh, this feels better than it ever has in a while, I said, hey, go get you a horse and then go get one of them colts out of the pen that we hadn't caught yet. I went and got a rope, and we put it in the round pen. And I roped the back leg on that horse, and she was up there on her horse making that colt gentle. And Sherry drove in the driveway. I mean, the fire was coming out of her head. She was going to kill someone,
She was not impressed, huh?
She sold those horses that night.
Oh, my.
She sold because she knows I picked that one because he's gentle. Right. So she sold him that night. She sold him. He's gone.
Man.
It was a pretty expensive horse, and she didn't sell him for that, but
she made her point.
She made her point. Yeah. But ever since I got that fixed, I mean, unbelievable difference.
That's very cool.
Because I had broke that neck 20-something years earlier and just toughed it out. It was the same joint. And officially, I didn't have it declared broken. I went to a chiropractor and stuff, and they x-rayed it and said, oh, you probably damaged it. You're really going to have some problems there. But they popped it back in place lots of times. And eventually, I got where I could do everything. And I thought, well, it's just healed up, But there was a lot of bone regrowth and scar tissue and stuff there where I damaged everything. And that's what was causing all the nerve pain when I broke it the second time. So, man, yeah, I encourage people, if you hurt yourself, you just need to go to the doctor.
If you hurt yourself like that, definitely.
Yeah, the technology they have anymore. Don't be a tough cowboy, dumb cowboy, or whatever that is.
So, do you have any advice for a youngster wanting to get in the horse business?
Yeah, have another job. I tell a story about my daughter. So my daughter grew up doing the horses with us and everything, and I mean, she can do everything. She can do it all. But she went and she made the best choice she could. Mark Twain said, "Never do something you love as a job," because it's like the Wizard of Oz. You get to pull back the curtain, you see all the stuff you don't love about it, and that sounds bad. But I encourage people, you can take and refine your skills and all that stuff and really develop them, work your other job. If you ever get to the point where you feel comfortable doing that, that's great, but make sure you know what you're getting into first. Because I see so many kids, man, they don't understand all the stuff you can't do because you're doing it this way. You're doing the horses and everything. Well, just like us having all these cows and horses and everything we don't take that very many vacations and stuff. There's a lot of stuff we don't do because we do a lot of horses and cattle and stuff.
Sure. Yeah, if you're in charge of animals, you can't take them to Hawaii with you.
Sure. My daughter, she went and got her degree. She's a pharmacist, and she still rides good and everything, and she does it because she loves it. She enjoys it every single time she does it. When we were riding for a living and shoeing for a living and everything, there were days when I didn't love it. Don't get me wrong, I still loved what I did, but there were dang sure days that it was not my choice.
Well, do you think you would have been able to have a career in Eagle Pitcher and get through that, or were you needing to leave?
No, I would not have been able to stay there. I've been making donuts down here at the donut shop or something. I don't know.
Anything but that, huh?
Anything but that. I was good at that, but it was not good for me. It was the deal where I was so focused and wanted everything to work, cost me too much, and it was not a healthy situation in the end, People should not be the managers and the guy that controls everything that is wholeheartedly invested in it. You'll give everything to make it work. And that's kind of rough. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it does work, but what does it cost in the end,
Yeah. And so do you still train any outside horses?
I take a few. Yeah, I take a few outside horses.
What's it cost to get you to take a horse for somebody?
$1,100 a month, 3-month minimum. Most of them stay here 6 or 8 months, but it's a 3-month minimum.
Are you booked up? Like you have all the horses you want?
Well, I don't really advertise it.
We're advertising right now.
Oh, yeah. Well, I could make a phone call and get all the horses I want. Yeah, I mean, I could, but I don't.
And you have done that for me, actually. There's been a couple times where I'd say, "Hey, Chad, we'd like to shoe 20." He says, "All right, what day?"
Yeah.
So that's always worked out really nice.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of horse guys. I have the deal here at my place. If they'll bring the horses here and let the students shoe them, because you got to learn somehow. Everything they shoe here, I'll guarantee. I mean, if they lose a shoe or something's not quite right, I'll take care of it. I mean, I'll fix it. Whatever it takes, I'll fix it,
Yeah.
I'm not nowhere near as good as you and your family, you and Cody and Kelly. And
Oh, I don't know about that. You're pretty handy.
well, but I'm not as handy in the forge for sure. I could do the horse part, and I can shoe a horse kind of, sort of. But you guys have refined the skills way beyond what I could ever think of.
You did do the blacksmith course last year. That was a lot of fun having you down there.
Oh, yeah. And I absolutely learned a lot in that. That was the year that I spent with Richard, or the year and a half I spent with Richard and Lee. Like I said, I was the apprentice, and it was good, but I was the guy, like we were shoeing, that's back when Lee was in Memphis, and they would have, like, if the orangutan Arabian stud they never took out of the stall except for to show it, needed shoes. That's what the apprentice did,
Yeah.
There's some good things and some bad things about that. The bad thing was I had to do it, and there were some terrible things, like when I put a nail through my chaps and like was hung up in the horse. That was bad. But I do believe that was kind of a God thing too, because doing all those when I was 17, 18, whatever I was, helped me later on, like when I had to deal with all the Mustangs and everything, because I had to do it.
And so by the time you get to a Mustang, there's the fear factor is gone.
Yeah, there was very few of them that I was afraid of. There was a couple, but there weren't very many of them. But it was just learning how to move with the horse and don't fight the horse. That's what I see in a lot of the students that come here. They think it's mechanical.
And some of them are so afraid of the big animal that they have a hard time getting past that. I mean, they do. They eventually do, but it's quite a deal.
I still tell the stories to some of the kids about when I had a bunch of Mustangs and you came down, and I would rope one, put a halter on it, and say, "Here, trim this one."
Yeah, we had some wild times. There were some good times.
Yeah, well, I would always show them that I could pick up all his feet.
Yeah, no, I know.
And you did it too. You did it with me there a few times. You would do one side and I did the other.
Well, you can't teach them if you can't do it. That's for sure.
That way, you got to show them you can. Yeah. And but a lot of it's they have to know how to feel it.
Yeah, they got to read the horse.
Right.
Well, Chad, you've been a great friend for a long time, and I can't thank you enough for taking an hour out of your day to sit with me.
Well, I appreciate you.
Thank you kindly. It is a great blessing in life if your calling and your dreams coincide with each other. As a young man, I wanted to help horses and be a great farrier. I ultimately found by helping others achieve their dreams of becoming great farriers, I could help more horses than I would ever see in my lifetime. Add to that a wife that shared my passion, and the Heartland Horseshoeing School became real. The Heartland is entering its 29th year, and we are so proud of those that have gone on from here to become leaders in the farrier industry. They will always be a part of the Heartland family. If your calling has to do with farriery, it will get the best start imaginable if you begin that journey by checking in the Heartland Horseshoeing School. Find us on the web at heartlandhorseshoeing.com or give me a call at 417-682-8484. We're here to help you get there.